What if everything we understood about the genesis of human civilization, the very bedrock of our history, was not merely incomplete, but profoundly and deliberately mistaken? What if, woven into the deepest tapestries of ancient myth and legend, lay not simply allegories or primitive explanations, but stark, unvarnished truths about an intelligence far grander and perhaps far more terrifying than anything we dare to conceive? For centuries, historians, theologians, and archaeologists have grappled with the perplexing echoes of a forgotten past, a past hinted at in cuneiform tablets, megalithic structures, and an enduring sense of awe that transcends mere human ingenuity. Yet among these countless whispers, there exists a particular thread, thin and almost imperceptible, that speaks of a technology so advanced, so utterly alien, that its mere existence threatens to unravel the carefully constructed edifice of our modern understanding. It is a tale not of crude tools or early agricultural methods, but of devices, potent and inscrutable, attributed to beings known in antiquity as the Anunnaki, beings from the heavens whose very name evokes a shiver of cosmic dread. The question isn't whether they visited. The question, posed with a chilling urgency, is what they left behind. We stand on the precipice of a revelation that could redefine our place in the cosmos, a discovery so monumental it could dismantle every textbook, every sacred text, and every scientific principle we hold dear. What if you were to learn that within the dusty, sun-baked plains of ancient Mesopotamia, a device was unearthed, a construct of such baffling complexity and profound power that it defied every known law of physics, every accepted historical timeline, and every conventional explanation? This isn't merely a theoretical musing. It is the core of a narrative, a hidden chapter in humanity's story that suggests we were not alone in our earliest days, and that the visitors from the stars left behind more than just myths. They left behind a piece of their world, a tangible echo of their advanced civilization, a technological marvel that should, by all accounts, simply not exist. The very notion sends a ripple of unease through the soul, a primal understanding that some knowledge is too vast, too dangerous for human minds to fully grasp. The journey we are about to embark upon delves into this forbidden knowledge, into the whispers of the Anunnaki and the chilling reality of a lost technology. It is a story of profound mystery, daring exploration, and a secret so deeply buried that its discovery could shatter reality itself. If this initial glimpse into the profound questions surrounding our ancient past and the potential existence of alien technology has already piqued your curiosity, made you rethink what you knew, imagine the depths we are about to plumb. This isn't just a story. It's an archaeological excavation of forgotten truths, a journey into the heart of a cosmic enigma. So go ahead and leave a like on this video. Show us you're ready for the uncomfortable truths, and subscribe to the channel right now. Because here, every video is a delve into the mysteries that mainstream narratives shy away from, revealing something few have the courage to acknowledge, let alone show. Your engagement helps to keep this vital conversation alive, pushing the boundaries of what we collectively believe is possible. If this beginning has truly captured your attention, it's because this channel delivers precisely the kind of content that challenges, informs, and provokes genuine thought. So don't hesitate. Subscribe now and activate that notification bell, because what comes next will delve even deeper into the unfathomable. The narrative of the Anunnaki, translated from ancient Sumerian texts, presents a fascinating and often disturbing account of beings who descended from the heavens, or ran in Sumerian to earth. These texts, inscribed on clay tablets millennia ago and first meticulously deciphered by pioneering Assyriologists in the 19th and early 20th centuries, speak of figures of immense power and knowledge, often depicted with winged forms or unusual headwear, who were worshipped as gods by the earliest human civilizations in Mesopotamia. They were not merely spiritual entities. The tablets describe them as physically present, interacting directly with early humans, teaching them agriculture, governance, and metallurgy. But perhaps most intriguingly, they speak of the Anunnaki possessing MEs, a term whose precise meaning continues to baffle scholars but is often interpreted as divine decrees, laws, or, more provocatively, advanced technologies. These MEs were said to grant power, knowledge, and order, suggesting something far more tangible than abstract concepts. Consider for a moment the cultural context of those early Sumerians living in mud-brick dwellings, cultivating fields with primitive tools, and gazing up at a sky that held both life-giving rain and inexplicable cosmic wonders. To them, the Anunnaki, arriving in their sky boats or fire chariots, must have appeared as truly divine, their abilities nothing short of miraculous. It's an interpretation that, even in our technologically advanced age, sparks a profound sense of wonder and discomfort, compelling us to look beyond the surface of conventional history. Dr. Alistair Finch, a formidable figure in the esoteric fringes of archaeological theory, often found himself a lone voice in the hallowed halls of British academia. His office, tucked away in a dusty corner of the Oriental Institute at Oxford, was a chaotic shrine to his obsession, the Anunnaki. Alistair, a man in his late 50s, with a shock of unruly grey hair and spectacles perpetually perched on the end of his nose, had dedicated his entire professional life to re-examining the Sumerian tablets, not as mythological allegories, but as historical records. His colleagues, a polite but generally dismissive lot, considered his theories outlandish, mere grist for the mill of tabloid sensationalism rather than serious scholarly discourse. Yet Alistair possessed an unwavering conviction, a quiet fire in his belly that told him there was more to these ancient narratives than met the eye. He believed the MEs were not just abstract concepts, but descriptions of physical objects, tools of immense power, perhaps even weapons. He spent countless hours poring over intricate cuneiform glyphs, cross-referencing translations, and drawing connections that others dismissed as purely coincidental. His meticulous research wasn't driven by a desire for fame, but by a relentless pursuit of truth, a gnawing feeling that humanity had been handed a sanitized version of its own origins. He envisioned a scenario where these beings, these Anunnaki, had not just influenced early human development, but had actively seeded it, perhaps even guided it with technologies we could only dream of. The academic establishment, with its comfortable certainties and deeply ingrained paradigms, was ill-equipped to entertain such radical notions, and Alistair often found himself the subject of polite, yet firm, intellectual ostracization. Nevertheless, he persevered, driven by an intuition that bordered on prescience, convinced that somewhere beneath the Mesopotamian sands, an irrefutable piece of evidence awaited discovery, a tangible link to these celestial architects. Alistair's early theories, first published in obscure archaeological journals and then expanded upon in a series of self-published monographs, focused on the inconsistencies within established historical narratives. He meticulously highlighted the sudden, inexplicable leaps in Sumerian technological and social development, seemingly appearing almost fully formed without the gradual evolutionary stages observed in other ancient cultures. How, he questioned in a particularly scathing footnote in one of his papers, could a civilization move from simple tribal structures to complex city-states with advanced irrigation systems, sophisticated writing, and intricate legal codes in what, geologically speaking, was the blink of an eye? His academic peers scoffed, attributing these rapid advancements to unique geographical advantages and an inherent human genius. But Alistair saw a pattern, a guiding hand, a deliberate acceleration. He fixated on a particular set of tablets found amongst the ruins of Ur and now housed in the British Museum, which described tools of creation and devices that shaped the land and sky. These descriptions were often vague, shrouded in poetic language, but to Alistair, they spoke of mechanical processes, of engineered solutions, rather than purely magical or divine intervention. He argued that the Sumerian pantheon, often depicted as quarrelsome and highly anthropomorphic, were not ethereal gods, but rather powerful, technologically superior beings who interacted with humans in a very direct, albeit often ruthless, manner. The stories of their conflicts, their hierarchies, and their use of divine powers to alter the landscape or influence human events were, in Alistair's interpretation, merely the records of advanced technological deployment, perceived through the limited lens of an infant civilization. His arguments, while often dismissed as fanciful, were meticulously constructed, supported by an encyclopedic knowledge of ancient languages and historical contexts, making them difficult to simply ignore. Yet the prevailing academic currents were too strong, too entrenched in conventional wisdom, to allow for such a radical re-evaluation. Alistair remained an outlier, a brilliant but isolated mind, ever on the lookout for the singular piece of evidence that would silence his detractors and validate his life's work. The whispers of lost technology or devices that shouldn't exist weren't confined solely to the ancient texts. They echoed, albeit faintly, in the field reports of early 20th century archaeologists, often dismissed as fanciful anecdotes or misinterpretations. Reports of strange metallic objects, unusually dense and non-corroding, found in contexts that defied explanation, fragments of ceramics with patterns too intricate for their supposed age. Even peculiar geological formations, sometimes attributed to seismic activity, but bearing the hallmarks of deliberate, if incomprehensible, alteration. Alistair Finch meticulously collected these scattered references, cross-referencing them with his readings of the Sumerian MEs. He saw a mosaic forming, a pattern emerging from the seemingly random data points. He believed that the Anunnaki, after establishing human civilization and perhaps exploiting terrestrial resources, had eventually departed, leaving behind remnants of their presence. Not just their genetic influence, as some fringe theorists posited, but their physical tools, their MEs, now lying dormant, buried beneath millennia of sand and sediment. He envisioned these artifacts as being more than mere curiosities. They were keys capable of unlocking a profound understanding of our true lineage and the universe itself. The sheer audacity of this hypothesis, however, made it impossible for him to secure funding from conventional academic sources. Grants were for established, safe research, not for wild goose chases after alien technology. Undeterred, Alistair began to seek alternative avenues, drawing on a small network of like-minded independent researchers, philanthropists with an open mind, and even a few anonymous benefactors who, for reasons unknown, found his theories compelling enough to invest in. He understood that true discovery often came at the cost of academic orthodoxy, and he was more than willing to pay that price. The thought of a tangible piece of Anunnaki technology, waiting to be unearthed, burning a hole in his mind, pushed him ever onward, his resolve hardening with each dismissive shrug from his peers. The pivotal moment arrived not in a grand, sponsored expedition, but through an unsolicited package that landed on Alistair's desk one drizzly Tuesday afternoon in October. It contained a series of high-resolution satellite images, accompanied by a terse, anonymous note, typewritten on cheap stationery. The images, taken from an incredibly high altitude, showed a remote, largely unexplored region of the Zagros Mountains, bordering modern-day Iraq and Iran. What was striking was a perfectly geometric anomaly, a subtle depression in the landscape that simply didn't fit the natural geological formations of the area. It was too precise, too regular, too unnatural. Alistair felt a jolt of electricity course through him. This was it. This was the anomaly he had been searching for, the kind of subtle clue that would be missed by casual observation or conventional aerial surveys. The note hinted at seismic data anomalies and peculiar energy signatures detected in the vicinity over the past decade, consistently dismissed as geological quirks by local authorities. But Alistair, with his Anunnaki lens, saw something far more profound. He saw the potential signature of a vast, buried structure, perhaps a landing site, or more tantalizingly, a hidden complex designed to house something extraordinary. He immediately recognized the immense personal risk involved in pursuing such a lead, especially in a region notorious for its political instability and its history of clandestine archaeological excavations. Yet, the gravitational pull of potential discovery was simply too strong to resist. This was no longer just theory. It was a tangible lead, a real-world coordinates on a map, beckoning him towards a destiny he had been preparing for his entire life. He knew that if this anomaly proved to be what his intuition screamed it was, then humanity's understanding of itself was about to undergo a seismic, irreversible shift. The academic ostracization, the quiet mockery, all of it would be vindicated in one breathtaking moment. Driven by an almost manic intensity, Alistair, despite his initial isolation from mainstream funding, managed to assemble a small, discreet team. It consisted of Dr. Evelyn Reed, a brilliant but equally unconventional geophysicist from Edinburgh, whose expertise lay in subterranean imaging, and a pair of seasoned, taciturn British security contractors, Liam and Sean, both ex-military, whose primary job was to ensure the team's safety in the notoriously volatile region. Liam, a burly man with a perpetually stern expression, and Sean, leaner and more watchful, brought a grounded pragmatism to Alistair's fervent academic enthusiasm. They secured a clandestine flight into a remote airfield in a neighboring country, then embarked on a grueling overland journey, traversing ancient winding tracks that snaked through breathtaking yet desolate mountain passes. The landscape itself felt ancient, a vast, indifferent canvas painted in shades of ochre and burnt umber, the air thin and carrying the scent of dust and distant scrubland. Every rock formation seemed to tell a story, every wadi a forgotten riverbed, amplifying the sense of profound history that permeated the entire venture. After days of relentless travel, often under the shroud of darkness to avoid detection, they finally reached the coordinates. The site was deceptively ordinary on the surface, a wide, desolate plateau, windswept and barren, with nothing but sparse, resilient vegetation clinging to the harsh terrain. Evelyn immediately deployed her ground-penetrating radar and other sophisticated geophysical survey equipment, her brow furrowed in concentration as she meticulously scanned the earth. The air was thick with anticipation, the silence broken only by the whine of her machinery and the distant mournful cry of a desert bird. Hours turned into a day, and then another. Alistair, a man of profound patience, paced restlessly, his gaze sweeping the horizon, a knot of anxiety tightening in his stomach. He tried to reconcile the quiet desolation of the scene with the extraordinary potential hidden beneath its surface. Then, late on the second day, Evelyn let out a sharp, almost inaudible gasp. "Alistair," she called, her voice strained with disbelief. "You're not going to believe this." Her monitors displayed an unmistakable, almost perfectly symmetrical structure, buried deep beneath the earth, a vast subterranean complex, far larger and more intricate than any natural cave system, radiating a subtle, anomalous energy signature unlike anything she had ever encountered. The dimensions were staggering, suggesting something constructed by an intelligence far beyond human capabilities. Even today, it was a moment of profound revelation, a validation of Alistair's life's work, and a terrifying confirmation that they were indeed standing on the threshold of something extraordinary, something that defied every conventional explanation. Liam and Sean, though not understanding the scientific jargon, could feel the palpable shift in the air, the sudden electric charge of discovery. The quiet desolation had given way to an almost overwhelming sense of an ancient, sleeping power, finally stirring. The initial excavation was a painstaking process, slow and deliberate, designed to minimize any disturbance to the ancient site. Liam and Sean, with their military precision, rigged a discreet encampment, meticulously camouflaged against the rugged terrain, ensuring their presence remained undetected. Alistair, with a reverence bordering on the spiritual, oversaw every shovelful of earth, every brushstroke that revealed the ancient soil. Evelyn, meanwhile, used advanced sonic mapping to create detailed three-dimensional schematics of the buried complex, guiding their efforts with remarkable accuracy. The sheer scale of the buried structure was breathtaking. It wasn't a simple tomb or a temple. It was a vast, sprawling network of interlocking chambers and passageways, constructed with an unknown material that resisted all forms of conventional cutting or drilling. The deeper they went, the more evident it became that this was an engineered marvel, not a natural phenomenon. The air within the initial entry shaft, once they finally managed to penetrate the superficial layers of earth and debris, was sterile and still, carrying a faint metallic scent that tickled the nostrils. It was profoundly alien, yet strangely familiar, as if hinting at a forgotten memory buried deep within the human psyche. After weeks of relentless effort, chipping away at the millennia of accumulated rock and sediment, they finally breached what Evelyn's scans indicated was a primary access point. It wasn't a door in the conventional sense, but a seamless section of the subterranean wall that, under certain energy frequencies, shimmered almost imperceptibly. Alistair, his hands trembling with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, ran his gloved fingers over the smooth, cold surface. There were no visible seams, no hinges, no obvious mechanisms for opening. It was as if the wall itself was a single, impenetrable block, crafted by an artisan of impossible skill. Evelyn, using a handheld scanner, identified complex energy patterns woven into the material, patterns that seemed to respond to specific ambient frequencies. After hours of careful calibration and experimentation, she managed to create a harmonic resonance, a subtle vibration that caused the seamless section of the wall to retract silently, almost as if dissolving into itself, revealing a dark, cavernous opening beyond. The sight that greeted them was nothing short of awe-inspiring. They stood at the threshold of a vast octagonal chamber, its walls and ceiling constructed from the same enigmatic, non-reflective material. The air within was perfectly still, devoid of dust or the scent of decay, preserved in an eternal vacuum of time. In the absolute center of the chamber, bathed in a faint, ethereal luminescence that seemed to emanate from the very material of the room, stood the device. It was unlike anything Alistair or his team had ever imagined, far surpassing even his most outlandish conjectures. It wasn't metallic in the way we understand metal. It appeared to be forged from a single, impossibly smooth, obsidian-like substance that absorbed and refracted light in peculiar ways. Its form was intricate, a series of interlocking, geometrically perfect spheres and rings, each element seemingly floating in precise relation to the others, yet firmly connected by unseen forces. There were no discernible seams, no visible power sources, no buttons or levers. It hummed, a low, resonant frequency that vibrated deep within their bones, a sound that was both ancient and utterly futuristic. Alistair felt an almost overwhelming sense of reverence, mixed with a profound unease. This was it, the lost technology of the Anunnaki, the device that shouldn't exist. Liam and Sean stood wide-eyed, their seasoned professionalism temporarily forgotten, replaced by a raw human astonishment. Evelyn simply stared, her scientific mind struggling to process the impossible reality before her. The luminescence within the chamber pulsed gently, as if the device itself was breathing, a silent, powerful guardian of secrets stretching back to the dawn of civilization. The luminous stone, as Alistair instinctively dubbed it, was far more complex than any mere archaeological find. Its core, a perfectly spherical construct, seemed to draw in the ambient light, transforming it into an internal glow that pulsed with a slow, deliberate rhythm. Surrounding this sphere were concentric rings, each etched with intricate, almost fractal patterns that shifted and reformed with an uncanny fluidity. The material itself defied categorization. Tests with their portable spectroscopic analyzers yielded anomalous results, showing no clear elemental composition recognizable on the periodic table. It was non-reactive, impossibly dense, yet seemingly weightless and impervious to all attempts at penetration or alteration. Evelyn, usually the picture of scientific detachment, found herself mesmerized. She noted that the luminous stone emitted a low-frequency sonic wave just at the edge of human hearing, which seemed to resonate with the very stone of the chamber, creating a unique acoustic environment. It was a silent symphony of alien engineering, a testament to a craftsmanship that rendered human capabilities laughably crude. Alistair, despite the profound awe, felt a growing sense of responsibility and trepidation. This was no museum piece. This was a primeval engine, a dormant power source that could perhaps reshape the world. The antechamber where they had found it was filled with strange, crystalline formations, unlike any known geological specimens. They seemed to grow out of the very rock, forming complex geometric arrays that pulsed faintly in response to the luminous stone's emanations. Were they part of a larger system? A power conduit, or perhaps a data storage medium? The possibilities were endless and terrifying. Liam and Sean, ever vigilant, scanned their surroundings, their weapons at the ready, but even their hardened gazes betrayed a deep-seated awe. This was beyond anything they had ever encountered in their military careers. This was history, technology, and perhaps something more profound, all rolled into one inscrutable object. The air itself seemed charged with a palpable energy, a sense of immense untapped power lying just beneath the surface, waiting for a catalyst. The team felt a profound sense of isolation, cut off from the world, the sole witnesses to a truth that could either enlighten or destroy. Initial attempts to understand the luminous stone were met with utter bewilderment. Their most advanced sensors simply couldn't register its energy output in any conventional way. It wasn't electrical, thermal, or even magnetic in a fashion they recognized. It was something else. Evelyn, frustrated but utterly captivated, theorized it might be drawing power from a source beyond their current understanding of physics, perhaps even tapping into the zero-point energy field or some interdimensional power supply. The geometric patterns on its rings, upon closer inspection, weren't merely decorative. They were dynamic, subtly shifting and reforming, almost as if they were performing complex calculations or displaying real-time data. Alistair was convinced these were the MEs, the divine decrees of the Anunnaki, translated into a tangible technological form. He believed the device was a form of universal translator, a knowledge conduit, or perhaps even a terraforming engine, capable of manipulating reality at a fundamental level. The possibilities were mind-boggling, each more profound than the last. He thought of the ancient tablets, now seen through a completely new lens. Could the tales of the Anunnaki creating or shaping the land, bringing forth life or commanding the waters, have been literal descriptions of this device's capabilities? The very thought sent a shiver down his spine. The sheer hubris of a species wielding such power was terrifying. The team worked with a frantic intensity, acutely aware that their discovery could not remain a secret for long. The satellite images, the energy anomalies, someone somewhere was bound to notice. Their clandestine operation was a race against time, not just to understand the luminous stone, but to decide its ultimate fate. Should such a device, capable of rewriting the laws of nature, fall into the hands of governments, corporations, or extremist groups. The moral implications were immense, weighing heavily on Alistair's already burdened mind. He envisioned a world transformed, perhaps for the better, but more likely plunged into chaos by the weaponization of such a potent artifact. Liam and Sean maintained their perimeter, their experienced eyes constantly scanning the desolate landscape, their presence a stark reminder of the very real, immediate dangers of their location. The wind howled occasionally outside, a mournful dirge against the ancient mountains, a sound that seemed to echo the profound, unsettling mystery contained within the hidden chamber. The luminous stone continued its silent hum, its gentle pulse a constant enigmatic presence, a silent sentinel of a lost era, patiently awaiting its reawakening. The air was thick with the scent of possibility and peril, a potent cocktail that left them all breathless. Have you ever stopped to ponder the sheer weight of a discovery like this? The kind of revelation that could shatter every historical narrative, every scientific paradigm, every spiritual belief. And what if, just what if, the implications of such a find were so profound, so utterly destabilizing, that its true nature had to be suppressed, hidden away from public consciousness, perhaps even from the very annals of recorded history? What would that say about our collective readiness to confront uncomfortable truths? If you've made it this far without pausing, without letting your mind wander, it's because this narrative has resonated deeply with you, stirring something primal and inquisitive. So if this detail, the very notion of a device that shouldn't exist, has surprised or even unnerved you, why not share your thoughts? Comment below if this detail has truly shocked you, or if you've always suspected there was more to our ancient past. Your engagement fuels this exploration into the unknown. A series of unprecedented and entirely accidental events soon brought the true, unsettling power of the luminous stone into stark relief. Evelyn, meticulously scanning the concentric rings of the device, inadvertently brushed a specific sequence of fractal patterns with her gloved hand. There was no tactile sensation, no click or shift, but the luminous stone's internal glow intensified dramatically, bathing the octagonal chamber in a brilliant, almost blinding light. The low hum escalated into a resonant thrum that vibrated through their very bones, causing a collective gasp among the team. Then the impossible began to unfold. Outside the chamber, the arid landscape, visible through their remote monitoring equipment, began to subtly, yet undeniably, shift. A small, barren patch of ground near their camouflage camp, perhaps 100 yards distant, underwent a startling transformation. Within moments, the parched earth seemed to absorb a vibrant green, as if life was being accelerated, forced into being by an unseen hand. Tiny, delicate shoots of a vibrant, unfamiliar flora burst through the soil, growing rapidly, unfurling leaves and blossoms in a matter of seconds. It was a sight of breathtaking, terrifying beauty, a stark demonstration of reality being fundamentally rewritten before their very eyes. The air within the chamber grew heavy, almost oppressive, as if the very fabric of space and time was being stretched and contorted. Alistair, his face a mask of disbelief and dawning horror, understood immediately. This was a terraforming device, or at least possessed the capability to manipulate organic matter and the environment on a fundamental level. The creation myths of the Anunnaki, the stories of them shaping the land, coaxing forth rivers, and commanding vegetation to grow, were not metaphors. They were literal descriptions of this technology at work. Evelyn, shaken to her core, quickly identified the specific frequency she had triggered and with trembling fingers managed to reverse the sequence, causing the luminous stone's glow to recede and the thrumming to dissipate. The miraculous, accelerated growth outside ceased as abruptly as it began, leaving behind a small patch of impossibly lush, alien greenery in the middle of the desert, a verdant, shocking testament to the device's immense power. Liam and Sean, initially dumbfounded, quickly regained their composure, their faces grim. "Bloody hell," Liam muttered, his voice hoarse. "That's not right, not natural at all." The implication of what they had just witnessed hung heavy in the sterile air of the chamber. This wasn't just an artifact, it was a tool of cosmic engineering, capable of reshaping planets, of creating and destroying life. The moral and ethical considerations, already profound, had just multiplied tenfold, demanding an immediate and terrifying decision. The accidental activation had profound implications, ripping through the team's carefully constructed scientific detachment. Alistair, usually so intellectually vigorous, now seemed burdened by a crushing weight. He understood with a terrifying clarity that the Luminous Stone was not merely a historical curiosity, but a living, potent force, an engine of creation and possibly destruction. His initial theories about the Anunnaki's role in shaping early human civilization suddenly felt chillingly real, almost like eyewitness accounts of unimaginable power. He envisioned these gods using such a device to cultivate the Fertile Crescent, to provide abundant harvests for the nascent human populations, perhaps as a means of controlling them, or even simply sustaining them for whatever cosmic purpose they intended. The thought was both awe-inspiring and deeply unsettling. The device wasn't a static relic. It was an active participant in Earth's history, a silent witness to the dawn of civilization, now reawakened. Evelyn, usually so logical and grounded, found her scientific mind struggling to reconcile the impossible reality of what she had witnessed with every principle of physics she knew. The instantaneous growth of biomass, the manipulation of matter and energy at such a fundamental level, shattered her understanding of the universe. "It's not just terraforming," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. "It's creation. Life from nothing, or rather from accelerated everything. What else can it do?" The question hung in the air, a chilling echo of countless other unknown capabilities. The very idea that such a device had existed on Earth for millennia, lying dormant beneath the sands, was enough to make her question everything. How many other miracles or divine interventions throughout history could be attributed to similar, unrecognized technologies? The implications were staggering, capable of dismantling not just scientific understanding, but religious beliefs, philosophical tenets, and humanity's very sense of unique destiny. Liam and Sean, practical men of action, were unnerved by the sheer scale of the device's power. They had faced life-threatening situations across the globe, but this was different. This was beyond the realm of human conflict or natural disaster. This was something ancient, alien, and utterly uncontrollable. "We can't let this out," Liam stated grimly, his gaze sweeping over the Luminous Stone. "Not a chance. Imagine what anyone could do with that." Sean nodded, his hand resting instinctively on his weapon. The moral imperative to contain this power, to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands, became paramount, overriding all academic curiosity or scientific ambition. They were no longer merely archaeologists or security contractors. They were guardians of a secret that could either doom or save humanity. And the weight of that responsibility was almost unbearable. The desert outside, once a symbol of desolation, now felt like a desperate shield, protecting the world from the unimaginable power held within its depths. The decision to contain the Luminous Stone, to rebury it and ensure its secrecy, was reached with a heavy heart, yet a chilling certainty. Alistair, Evelyn, Liam and Sean understood that such a power, in humanity's current state of technological and moral development, was simply too dangerous to unleash upon the world. The accidental terraforming event had revealed a capability so profound, so utterly beyond human comprehension, that it posed an existential threat. They spent a further harrowing week documenting everything they could without further disturbing the device, using remote probes and passive scanners to gather data that would, perhaps, someday be understood. Every detail, every pattern, every minute energy fluctuation was meticulously recorded, stored on encrypted drives, destined for a vault deeper than any government repository. The team worked in a tense, somber silence, each member grappling with the magnitude of their choice, sacrificing global revelation for global safety. Alistair knew that his life's work, the culmination of decades of unconventional research, would remain unseen, unheard. The vindication he had sought, the recognition that would silence his academic detractors, would never come. He would return to Oxford, forever branded an eccentric, his extraordinary discovery forever sealed within his own tortured mind. But as he looked at the luminous stone, pulsing with its silent, enigmatic power, he felt a strange sense of peace. Some truths, he reasoned, were not meant for humanity, not yet. Some technological marvels, born of a civilization beyond our understanding, were best left dormant, undisturbed beneath the earth, until perhaps a more enlightened future generation might possess the wisdom to approach them without self-destruction. The weight of that decision, however, etched itself onto his very soul, a silent burden he would carry until his dying day. The process of resealing the chamber was even more meticulous than its opening. They reversed the resonant frequency, watched as the seamless entry point solidified, becoming one with the ancient, impenetrable walls once more. Then, with heavy machinery flown in under the cover of night, they buried the entire complex, carefully restoring the surface landscape to its original, desolate appearance. Every trace of their presence was systematically erased, every path obscured, every disturbance disguised. Liam and Sean's expertise in covert operations proved invaluable, turning the remote plateau back into the uninhabited, unremarkable expanse it had been for millennia. The winds howled, kicking up dust, as if the desert itself conspired to reclaim its secrets, to erase the fleeting intrusion of human curiosity. The luminous stone, the device that shouldn't exist, was once again relegated to the realm of myth, a whisper beneath the sands, its immense power sleeping, waiting. The journey back was fraught with a different kind of tension. The physical dangers of the region remained, but now they were overshadowed by the immense psychological burden of their secret. Evelyn, her vibrant scientific curiosity dimmed, became withdrawn, her gaze often distant, lost in the incomprehensible data swirling in her mind. Liam and Sean, stoic as ever, nevertheless carried the unspoken weight of what they had witnessed, their casual camaraderie replaced by a grim, shared understanding. Alistair, the driving force behind the expedition, felt a profound sense of isolation, an unbridgeable gulf separating him from the rest of humanity. He knew he possessed a truth so cataclysmic, so paradigm-shifting, that it could never be shared. He returned to his dusty office in Oxford, his academic life resuming its predictable rhythm, but he was fundamentally changed. The quiet scholar was now a reluctant guardian of an unthinkable secret, forever haunted by the luminous hum of the Anunnaki's lost technology, a constant silent reminder of what lay buried beneath the earth, patiently awaiting its next, perhaps inevitable, awakening. The world continued its comfortable spin, utterly oblivious to the profound reality that had been both discovered and deliberately concealed, just beyond the reach of human understanding. Years turned into decades. Alistair Finch became an increasingly reclusive figure in Oxford, his lectures dwindling in frequency, his published works becoming more cryptic and abstract, filled with veiled allusions to forbidden knowledge and the perils of premature discovery. His colleagues, while acknowledging his brilliance, quietly dismissed him as having finally succumbed to his eccentricities, perhaps even a touch of senility. They spoke of the once sharp mind that had delved so deeply into Sumerian antiquity, now being lost in the labyrinth of its own unproven theories. Yet among a small, discerning few, often younger scholars or those on the periphery of conventional academia, his later writings began to take on a cult status. They found resonance in his questions about the sudden leaps in early human development, his insistence on a guiding hand, and his references to MEs as more than mere divine laws. These were often students who found themselves stifled by the rigid dogma of established historical narratives, individuals who instinctively felt that the story of humanity was far grander and far more complex than what was presented in textbooks. One such individual was Dr. Chloe Davies, a bright, ambitious young archaeologist recently appointed to a research fellowship at University College London. Chloe had stumbled upon Alistair's early, more accessible papers during her doctoral research on ancient Mesopotamian cosmology, initially intrigued by his unconventional interpretations. As she delved deeper, finding his later, more abstract works, she began to notice a recurring pattern, subtle, almost subliminal clues woven into his prose, hints of a tangible physical discovery. He wrote of a light that defied earthly origin, of a hum that resonated with creation itself, and a power best left undisturbed. These weren't the ramblings of a madman, Chloe concluded. They were the carefully coded warnings of someone who had seen something. She felt a profound sense of empathy for Alistair, understanding the immense burden he must have carried. Her own work, though far more conventional, had often brushed against anomalies, strange data points that defied easy explanation, particularly regarding the unexpected sophistication of certain Sumerian astronomical observations. Could Alistair's lost technology provide the missing piece to these enduring puzzles? Her intuition, sharpened by years of meticulous research, told her that Alistair wasn't merely theorizing. He was recounting a hidden history, a suppressed truth. The academic establishment, of course, would scoff at such notions, but Chloe possessed a healthy skepticism for orthodoxy, a quiet determination to follow the evidence, no matter how unsettling its implications. She began to meticulously retrace Alistair's academic journey, gathering his obscure publications, cross-referencing his footnotes, and attempting to decipher the hidden messages within his later, almost poetic prose. The ghost of the luminous stone, though unknown to her by name, was beginning to stir once more, casting its long, enigmatic shadow across Chloe's promising but now irrevocably altered academic path. Chloe's quiet investigation led her down a rabbit hole of forgotten archives, obscure satellite imagery analysis, and the surprisingly helpful, if initially skeptical, counsel of Evelyn Reed. Evelyn, now retired and living a reclusive life in a small cottage in the Scottish Highlands, was initially resistant to Chloe's inquiries. Her experiences at the dig site had left deep emotional and psychological scars, and the thought of revisiting that terrifying secret filled her with dread. However, Chloe's earnestness, her sharp intellect, and her genuine respect for Alistair Finch's work eventually wore down Evelyn's formidable defences. Over numerous cups of tea by a roaring peat fire, Evelyn, in hushed tones, began to share fragments of the story, careful not to reveal too much, yet enough to confirm Chloe's deepest suspicions. She spoke of the anomalous energy signatures, the non-terrestrial materials, and the terrifying demonstration of the device's power. She also spoke of Alistair's profound conviction that some knowledge was simply too dangerous, too destabilizing for humanity to handle prematurely. Chloe listened intently, her mind racing, connecting Evelyn's fragmented recollections with Alistair's coded writings. The picture that emerged was far more terrifying and awe-inspiring than she could have ever imagined. It wasn't just an archaeological find. It was a revelation that could tear apart the very fabric of human civilization. The terraforming incident, as Evelyn described it, sent a chill down Chloe's spine. The idea that a device, buried beneath the earth, could spontaneously generate life or reshape landscapes was a concept that stretched the very limits of scientific understanding, pushing it into the realm of the truly divine or the profoundly alien. Chloe understood the immense burden Alistair and Evelyn had carried, the quiet sacrifice they had made for the greater good of humanity. The weight of this shared secret now began to settle upon her own shoulders, a heavy, unsettling cloak. She knew, with a certainty that resonated deep within her, that she couldn't simply let this knowledge lie dormant. The luminous stone, as she now understood it was called, was a key to humanity's true origins, a tangible link to the Anunnaki and a silent challenge to every belief system on Earth. The question was no longer if it existed, but what it truly meant for the future of humanity, and what price would be paid for its rediscovery. The wind outside Evelyn's cottage howled, a reflection of the tumultuous questions churning in Chloe's mind, questions that threatened to unravel everything she, and indeed the world, thought it knew. The unearthing of the luminous stone, had it been publicly disclosed, would have plunged humanity into an unprecedented existential crisis. Our entire understanding of history, of scientific progress, of religious texts, would be utterly shattered. The very notion that an advanced, non-human intelligence had not only visited Earth, but actively shaped our early development with technology we cannot even begin to replicate, fundamentally redefines our place in the cosmos. It implies that we are not the sole architects of our destiny, but perhaps, at least initially, the beneficiaries, or even subjects, of an alien agenda. The implications for theology are cataclysmic. If gods were merely technologically advanced beings, what then of faith, of divine intervention, of the very soul? Science, too, would face an intellectual tsunami. Every law of physics, every cosmological model would need to be re-evaluated in light of a device that defies known matter, energy, and even the fabric of space-time. The political ramifications would be equally devastating. Which nation would claim ownership of such a device? What power would it confer upon those who controlled it? The potential for global conflict, for an arms race not seen since the dawn of nuclear weapons, would be immense, amplified by the unimaginable power of the luminous stone. Alistair's decision, echoed by Evelyn's quiet resolve, to rebury and conceal the device, was not merely an act of scientific caution, but a desperate ethical stand against potential global catastrophe. They understood that humanity, with its inherent tribalism, its constant struggles for dominance and power, was simply not ready for such a profound truth, such an overwhelming power. The luminous stone, therefore, remained a silent testament to a hidden history, a secret kept at immense personal cost, slowly becoming a myth, even within the tight-knit circle of those who knew. But secrets, particularly those of such monumental significance, have a way of whispering across time, leaving tantalizing breadcrumbs for future generations. Chloe Davies, now equipped with Evelyn's first-hand accounts and Alistair's coded documentation, felt an immense burden of responsibility. The luminous stone was not just an artifact of the past, it was a potential key to the future, a dormant power that, if understood correctly, could perhaps solve some of humanity's most pressing challenges. Yet, the memory of the uncontrolled terraforming, the instantaneous reshaping of reality, was a stark reminder of the perils involved. She knew she could not simply abandon the knowledge. It demanded further investigation, further understanding, but with an unparalleled degree of caution and ethical consideration. The narrative of the Anunnaki, once dismissed as ancient myth, now took on a terrifying, tangible reality, a profound challenge to humanity's self-perception. The lost technology was no longer merely lost, it was a sleeping giant, and Chloe, armed with the whispered truths of her mentors, felt an irresistible pull to approach it. not to awaken its raw power, but to finally understand its silent, enigmatic purpose. The shadow of the device, long and foreboding, stretched across the landscape of human possibility, awaiting its next, perhaps inevitable, encounter. The enduring mystery of the Anunnaki's lost technology, the device that should not exist, serves as a chilling testament to the profound gulf between our current understanding of the universe and the true, unfathomable depths of ancient history. It leaves us with more questions than answers, challenging the very bedrock of our perceived reality. Were the Anunnaki benevolent guides, cruel overseers, or merely indifferent architects who, through their advanced technology, accidentally sparked human civilization? What was the true purpose of the Luminous Stone? Was it a terraforming engine, a communication device, a weapon, or something far grander and more intricate, a tool that transcends our current categorical thinking? And perhaps most unsettlingly, what other lost technologies lie buried beneath the sands of time, waiting to be unearthed, waiting to shatter our understanding of ourselves and our place in the cosmic tapestry? The story of the Luminous Stone is not a closed chapter. It is an open-ended question, a profound invitation to look beyond the surface, to question every narrative, and to confront the uncomfortable truth that our universe is far stranger, far more ancient, and far more populated with astonishing possibilities than we have ever dared to imagine. The Anunnaki's legacy, it seems, is not merely in the myths they inspired, but in the tangible echoes of their impossible science, lying dormant, patiently awaiting the next curious mind to uncover their secrets. If this journey into the lost technology of the Anunnaki has opened your mind, caused you to question established beliefs, and made you contemplate the incredible vastness of what we don't yet know, then you are truly part of a rare few. It shows you're one of those who look beyond the surface, who crave genuine knowledge and are brave enough to confront uncomfortable truths. So, if you've made it all the way to the end of this profound exploration, please take a moment to comment below. Made it to the end. This simple act helps us understand who truly values this kind of deep dive into the hidden layers of our history and existence. Don't stop there. If this video truly made you think differently, show your support by liking it now. Subscribe to the channel immediately to ensure you don't miss the next chapters of this incredible journey, because we promise the forthcoming episodes will delve even deeper into the mysteries that continue to confound and fascinate us. And as you prepare to continue your quest for knowledge, click on the content that's already appearing on your screen now. It is the logical continuation of the questions we've just raised, an essential next step in understanding the true scope of these ancient enigmas. Trust us, you won't want to stop here.